Welcome back to another episode of the Miniature Truth. I am your only host on this show. And what up, my niggas? Sam, been a minute. Corey, always good. How's everyone doing this fine Tuesday morning? Tomorrow's Independence Day, if you know, you know. But what are we going to talk about today? Press briefings. Press briefings, roundtables. We're going to listen to Caroline Levitt do the press briefing from yesterday, and I want you to pay very close attention to one. Hello, Carmen. Very close attention to her face when they mention a specific app. And then after that, we're going to see how Pam Bondi reacts to that app. And after that, we're going to have a Donald Trump roundtable, and I will critique or praise what he says. So, without further ado, before we get anything started, you know how it is. Got to start off with a song. And since we are talking about America.
Lately, USA is getting scarier. Half of the Americans I see all hate America. They hate the cops doing their best to take care of us and kneel for the flag and salt the soldiers that we're burying. I'm tired of the pissing and complaining. Why you living in America if all you do is hate it? You think it's brave to take a stand against the nation? Real bravery is dying for the right so you can say it. Dear America, what happened to Americans? Apparently no one's aware or cares that it's embarrassing. It's arrogance. Our greatest enemy was always slavery and terrorists, and now it's people in the country trying to burn the heritage. I can't help it, I just seem to see the world different. It ain't Republicans or liberals, it's mental illness. The internet is only interested in left opinions. Cancel culture's got more power lately than the First Amendment. If you don't like it, leave. We will not defund police. We don't want no riots in our neighborhoods or in the streets. We respect freedom of speech. We protect what we believe. We don't want nobody dead, so please do not tread on me. In America, you're free to make free. In America, got soldiers dying overseas. So America, you say what we believe. My America, I won't ever take a knee. Our freedom is the reason you can disrespect our flag. If my stars and stripes offend you, then
Holy fuck, I was muted. Alright, welcome back. Enough of that. Hopefully everybody got their tea, sweet tea, because you know this is the South. And there's only really one tea. Or your cup of coffee, depending on where you're at. And if you're a Jew, you can have your bagel. But now that we're here, we're going to head into a press briefing from yesterday from Miss Caroline Levitt. And she's going to be addressing the country. And we shall listen and see what she has to say. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, this 27-year-old baddie and the press brief. Play.
I haven't seen the clip. We'll take a look at it, but good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Did everyone have a good weekend? Yes. Good. It's good to see you back here. We have another busy week. On a scheduling note, tomorrow, President Trump will travel to the great state of Florida to attend the opening of a new illegal alien detention center located at Dade Collier Training and Transition Airport, alongside Secretary Kristi Noem, Governor Ron DeSantis, Congressman Byron Donalds, and other state and local leaders. We hope to see many of you there. The facility is in the heart of the Everglades and will be informally known as Alligator Alcatraz. There is only one road leading in, and the only way out is a one-way flight. It is isolated and surrounded by dangerous wildlife and unforgiving terrain. The facility will have up to 5,000 beds to house, process, and deport criminal illegal aliens. This is an efficient and low-cost way to help carry out the largest mass deportation campaign in American history. We are truly coming off a historic week of President Trump racking up win after win on behalf of the American people. President Trump restored peace through strength and acted decisively as commander-in-chief to obliterate the immediate threat of the Iranian regime's nuclear capabilities, and then brokered a ceasefire.
Now that I've listened to this for the second time, they got rid of the immediate threat. So how long is immediate exactly? Huh?
Ceasefire between Israel and Iran, which continues to hold. Then The president traveled to the Netherlands and achieved a monumental win for the United States and the NATO alliance by getting our allies to dedicate 5% of their GDPs to military spending. As a result of President Trump unleashing American energy dominance, summer gas prices are at the lowest they have been in 4 years, heading into the July 4th week.
Guys.
And with the incoming Trump economic boom, the stock market continues to roar back, with the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ both hitting record highs. And on this point of an economic boom, I bring to you original correspondence from the President of the United States to our Fed Chair, Jerome Powell. As the president has consistently stated, the American economy is booming. And there were so many economic analysts who said that this president's policies would drive our economy down, when in fact we have seen the opposite. We've seen a massive deregulation campaign take place. We've seen inflation completely diminished from where it was under the reckless spending and the bad policies of the previous incompetent administration. I would remind the Fed chair, and I would remind the entire world, that this is a president who was a businessman first, and he knows what he is doing. He has a proven economic formula that worked in his first term as president, and it is working again. The one problem that remains is high interest rates for the American people. The American people want to borrow money cheaply, and they should be able to do that. But unfortunately, we have interest rates that are still too high. So the president sent this note to the Fed chair today. And if you look at this chart, this is a chart of all of the interest rates of many countries throughout the world. At the top is Switzerland. They're only paying a quarter for interest rates. Cambodia, Japan, Denmark, Thailand, Botswana, Barbados, Taiwan, Bulgaria, Cuba, Sweden, Morocco, Cabo Verde, South Korea, Algeria, Canada, Albania, Libya, Malaysia, China, New Zealand, Trinidad and Tobago, Czechia, Bolivia, Australia, Costa Rica, the Bahamas, Kuwait, Papua New Guinea, Bosnia, United Kingdom, and the UAE are all paying lower interest rates than the United States of America, which has one of the hottest and strongest economies in the world. The president sent this note to the Fed chair. It says, Jerome, you are as usual too late. You have cost the USA a fortune and continue to do so. Well, at least you saved money on putting on legal paper. Hundreds of billions of dollars are being lost, and there is no inflation. And the president is right. There is historically low inflation thanks to his policies. And we will continue to drive down the cost of living in this country for Americans. We will continue to deregulate. And it's also incredibly important that we pass this one big, beautiful bill, which is the largest tax cuts in American history. And that's why the White House and the president himself have been in touch with lawmakers all weekend long to get this bill passed. And they are working very hard to do so. It remains a top priority.
It passed the Senate 51-50. So, yeah, there's that one. And, well, it goes back to the House today. We'll see what they do. He wants to sign this $1 trillion deficit bill. This big, beautiful bill by July 4th. Interesting.
Priority for the president. And this bill has exposed the clear differences between Republicans and Democrats in 2025. The Democrats are doubling down on craziness and radical policies that are undermining the very fabric of our country. Just look at the Democrat nominee for New York City Mayor, Zohran Mamdani. He's a Democrat socialist, really a communist, who proudly calls to defund the police, peddles anti-Semitism, praises pro-Hamas.
And he wants to tax the billionaires in New York City. Well, there's 123 billionaires in New York City. I don't know if it's made up, but it sounds pretty close to the actual number. What happens when those 127, what number did I say the first time? It doesn't really matter. What happens when they decide to pick up and move outside New York City into a more peaceful, calmer town, or hell, outside of the state? Then what? You want your 5, there's only going to be one gas station, one grocery store per borough, and that's 5. And he wants to streamline the prices for food and make it to where grocery store owners cannot make a profit, right? Cheaper prices, right? Who's going to pay for that? Oh, those 127 billionaires that are leaving New York State, whatever. So in the end, New York City will be in fact, like a little Soviet communist city in the middle of the United States. And oh, did I mention that he also wants to raise the property tax on white people, specifically white people? Yeah, that too.
Groups, wants Israel abolished, and believes wealthy Americans should not exist. Those are his words, just as recent as this weekend. Meanwhile, under President Trump's leadership, Republicans are fighting tirelessly for everyday, middle-class, working Americans who re-elected this president. And we're carrying out a revolution of common sense. And all of that is packed into this one big, beautiful bill. It delivers the largest middle and working class tax cuts in U.S. history. It keeps America safe by funding the largest ever one-time investment in border security. It's enough to reverse the Biden border invasion. And every single Democrat is against that, against securing our border and deporting millions of criminal illegal aliens. The One Big Beautiful Bill also strengthens and protects Medicaid benefits, despite what Democrats are saying, for eligible.
Somehow that managed to pass in the bill. Not getting rid of Medicaid for illegals. That's fucking wild, huh?
American citizens who rely on it, like pregnant women, children, seniors, and people with disabilities, by eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse that threaten to destroy this program that was intended for the most vulnerable in our society. And every single Democrat in Congress is against rooting out that waste, fraud, and abuse and blocking the 1.4 million illegal aliens who are currently improperly receiving these benefits that should be going to American tax-paying citizens. The Democrats in Congress are more concerned with defending illegal aliens than they are hardworking Americans. In
one sense, it does add more money to border control and immigration. But on the second time, we're still not saving money by getting rid of the illegals, getting their Medicaid and Medicare. However, if you notice, some states have voted to remove them from the state run healthcare. And these are liberal states.
The bill also revitalizes our military and enhances our defense capabilities, protects our country from emerging new threats by funding a cutting-edge missile defense system called the Golden Dome. And as we all know, the One Big Beautiful Bill makes the Trump tax cuts permanent. The White House and the President are adamant that this bill is passed and that this bill makes its way to his desk. Republicans need to stay tough and unified during the home stretch, and we are counting on them to get the job done. So, with that, we will take questions. John Fredericks is on the media seat today. John, thanks for being here. We'll kick it to you.
Thank you, Caroline. Let's get to the One Big Beautiful Bill first. It appears now you're going to get at least 50 votes in the Senate. There'll be some amendments. What is the president's confidence level in getting 218 votes in the House by the end of this week in order for him to sign it on Friday?
Well, look, we are very well aware, the president is very well aware, that this bill needs to not only pass out of the Senate, but it needs to go back to the House, and we need the full weight of the Republican conference to get behind this bill, and we expect them to, and we are confident that they will.
Bro, when you think about this big, beautiful bill, I want you to remember the omnibus bills that the Democrats were so pushing hard to get passed, which parts of it did. And Republicans are like, no, 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 no. Now, as Gomez would say, uno reverse, and it's happening all over again. Weird.
The president has been working hand in hand with Senate Majority Leader Thune and also our House Republican leader, or the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, both of whom will be at the White House today to meet with the president yet again. I believe they were here this morning, actually.
I have one follow-up.
Sure.
You outlined Jerome Powell and the note that the president just sent to him. There are many who believe that Powell has been politicized in a lot of different ways. The president has not been shy about acting on things that he believes in. Why not just fire Jerome Powell and put in somebody that is going to lower rates? Why wait?
Well, it's a good question, and one you can ask the president, because that's a decision for him to make. But you're right to point out the politicization of the Fed, and it's very unfortunate for our country. But Jerome Powell cut rates numerous times ahead of the election when Joe Biden was in this Oval Office, but now he refuses to, and the economy is in a much better place. So there really isn't a good explanation for that, and the president is rightfully calling attention to it.
Thank you.
Kelly.
Good afternoon. On Iran, the president posted on his social that he is not even talking to them anymore. When we were at NATO, he said he expected the U.S. and Iran to have talks as early as this week and that he might even want to see a written agreement. What is the update now if he's saying he's not even talking?
So as I told you from the podium last week, I said the administration, and namely our special envoy Steve Witkoff, has been in communication both directly and indirectly with the
You like how
Iranians.
she tried to frame that as we're not talking to Iran? Uh, Donald Trump said he's going to be in constant talks with Iran. And then, Donald Trump has actually contacted Iran. Well, what's the deal with that? Well, that's not his job right now. That's his negotiators' jobs. Weird how that works, huh?
Communication continues. The president himself has not talked to Iran, which he pointed out in his truth statement. Peter.
Thank you, Caroline. Does President Trump want Zohran Mamdani deported?
I haven't heard him say that. I haven't heard him call for that. But certainly he does not want this individual to be elected.
Now, this would start a terrible precedent, right? This guy gained his citizenship 8 years ago, 8 years ago, right? And now he's a citizen. Now we're saying we can revoke your citizenship and then we're going to deport you. What she, by the way, threatened to do to Elon Musk again.
Speaking to him about it and his radical policies that will completely crush New York City, which is obviously a city that the president holds near and dear to his heart.
There's this Congressman Andy Ogles. He wants the Attorney General Bondi to explore denaturalization proceedings because he thinks Mamdani could have misrepresented or concealed material support for terrorism based on rap lyrics he wrote in 2017.
Oh, God.
Does President Trump think this is a worthwhile use of the Attorney General's time?
Well, I'll let the president speak to that. I have not seen those claims, but surely if they are true, it's something that should be investigated.
And could President Trump see himself, you said you just talked to him about this, could he see himself working with a mayor, Mamdani, somebody who, on Meet the Press this weekend, was given 3 chances to condemn the phrase globalize the intifada, but he couldn't?
Yeah, look, the president is always willing to work with everyone. He's working with Democrats.
Wait a minute. So this guy can say globalize the intifada and nobody says anything bad, right? And then I forgot what I was going to say about Donald Trump. Oh, they're fine people on both sides, right? So is it a misquote or is it a, hey, wait a minute, it's reversed again?
Across the country, Democrat governors, and he said he'll work with people on the far left. He works with Republicans. He works with people in the middle. He wants to do what's right for America, but surely someone who holds these values and is quite literally a communist and condemns every value that makes this country great. Common sense, law and order, low taxes, working hard, and earning your keep in this country. He's against all of that, and I think the president would find it difficult to work with someone like that. If he is elected, I'm sure you'll hear more from the president on that, but we'll have to see. Hopefully the voters of New York City choose wisely. Sure.
Thanks, Caroline. The president on Friday said that he was hopeful of a Gaza deal within the next week. Can you give us an update on any progress towards that, and on any talks that the White House is having with Israel on that?
In case you didn't know, I don't really address this. So Bibi Netanyahu is being summoned to the international courts on his handling of Gaza, which, as he should be. But the one person that's highly up there defending himself, defending this Zionist piece of shit, is Zion Don. What an odd thing to do.
Well, I know that Mr. Dermer is in Washington this week to meet with senior officials here at the White House. I also know that this administration is in constant communication with Israeli leadership, and the president himself speaks frequently, as you know, to Prime Minister Netanyahu. But this has been a priority for the president since he took office, to end this brutal war in Gaza. It is because of this president that humanitarian aid is being brought into the region. It's heartbreaking to see the images that have come out from both Israel and Gaza throughout this war, and the president wants to see it end. He wants to save lives, and however, the main priority for the president also remains to bring all of the hostages home out of Gaza. As you know, his tireless effort has brought home many of the hostages, including all of the American hostages who were
Yeah, I was
held
gonna
there.
say,
So he wants to see
when
both
it
things
came to the
happen. And
hostages, he was definitely America first. Huh? Huh?
we're continuing to work very hard to do those things. Sure.
Yeah, thanks, Caroline. What is the White House's response to Senator Tillis's criticism articulated from the Senate floor yesterday, in which he said passing the big, beautiful bill would betray President Trump's promise to protect Medicaid?
Well, he is just wrong. And the president and the vast majority of
Oh my God, this whole thing. 19 million fucking people without Medicaid. Bro, they voted in that bill to keep funding for Medicaid for illegals. Get the fuck out of here. So they're talking about cutting it, but at the same time, they're not cutting it. That's a weird fucking thing to do.
Republicans who are supportive of this legislation are right. This bill protects Medicaid, as I laid out for you, for those who truly deserve this program, the needy, pregnant women, children, sick Americans who physically cannot work. And what it does is it ensures that able-bodied Americans who can
I
work
want to
20
interrupt
hours a
again.
week are actually...
Not to mention there's this huge RICO thing going on healthcare providers basically stealing from Medicaid and Medicare to do, surgeries that didn't happen. That's weird. And you know this is crazy part about it. Sonny Hostin's husband, he's in that RICO case. So this is going to be fun because now she can't talk shit. Well, she can talk shit, but she's going to be poor.
Doing so, and that will therefore strengthen and protect those benefits for Americans who need it, as well as cutting out the waste, fraud, and abuse, as well as getting 1.4 million illegal aliens off.
Fuck? Honestly, that really does not surprise me, FinFam. I wonder if that's still going to be left in there. I wonder. That's a lot of fucking tax dollars.
The program. So all of those measures are actually going to protect it for those who need it. That's the president's position, and that's what this bill does, and that's why Republicans need to vote for it and get it to the president's desk.
That kind of criticism from a Republican senator, is that reason for concern?
Look at this
for the
dude.
passage
Hey.
of this?
No, it's not. We're confident.
Yo, he looks like the aliens from that Indiana Jones movie, or what's that cartoon? Family Guy. No, not Family Guy. American Dad. The fuck is that? Roger!
Reason for concern for the passage of this?
No, it's not. We're confident this bill is
I
going to
bet you
be
he has
back
no
in the
soul.
White House by the 4th of July. Stephen.
Thank you, Caroline. Two questions. On the New York mayoral race, does the president plan to make an endorsement? And secondly, on Jerome Powell, a lot of the focus obviously has been on interest rates and him keeping them high, but a new controversy erupted today. My colleague first reported that he's facing Chairman Jerome Powell is facing accusations of lying to Congress, which is a potential crime, about luxurious details of the Fed's $2.5 billion renovation project. Senator Loomis has called attention to this. Some experts want him to be investigated. Does the White House want these allegations investigated and, if found substantiated, punished?
I'll have to take a look at those allegations, and I will raise them to the president's attention and let him speak on them himself. To your first question regarding the mayoral race, the president was asked that yesterday by Maria Bartiromo. He refused to give an endorsement, so you won't get one from me at this point.
No fucking way. I've actually never thought about that. That's legit what they are. Huh. Huh. Especially during Biden's administration.
Philip, go ahead.
Oh,
Sure. And then I can go to you.
cool.
Thanks.
Thank you. The president said that he's working on a temporary pause for immigration enforcement in certain industries. I'm wondering what you can tell us about how he's determining which industries are deserving of a pass. He mentioned farmers, but what about, say, construction workers? I mean, shouldn't there just be one standard here?
I don't have any more details to read out for you, but what I can tell you is that the White House is working closely every day with the Department of Agriculture as well as the Department of Homeland Security when it comes to workforce
Rumble
enforcement,
Yeti.
work site enforcement, I'm sorry. And the president's focus and the focus of this administration is, of course, to remove public safety threats from the streets and to deport as many of the illegal criminals, especially the violent criminals that we know are still here because of the previous administration. So that's the main priority and the goal.
And then the president has already made cuts to the office of the Director of National Intelligence, but now Senator Tom Cotton has put forward a bill that would cut the office by another 60%. What's the president's reaction to that legislation, and is this something that he would support, those additional cuts?
I don't know if the president's even aware of that legislation, but I will get you a response if he is aware and if he wants to respond to it. Go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. You mentioned the dangerous wildlife at the alligator Alcatraz. Is that a design feature? Why is the president going with his mega bill in such...
What do you mean, is that a designed feature? They didn't make the Everglades just to put that fucking place there, buddy. You know what? Look at your nose. Look at your nose. I already know.
Precarious position in the Senate. And then also, can you talk about the CBO estimate that it would add about 11 million uninsured?
Well, look, when you have illegal murderers and rapists and heinous criminals in a detention facility surrounded by
supposedly they were going to be looking into this bullshit, and like almost all of the 8,000 things that he signed will be relooked at, or pardons, which would be interesting. I don't think it's going to happen because, well, a lot of Democrats would be going to jail.
alligators, yes, I do think that's a deterrent for them to try to escape. We do know that some of these illegal criminals have escaped from other detention facilities, like one in New Jersey, which I know was recently reported on. So, of course, we want to keep the American people safe, and we want to remove these public safety threats from our streets, and we want to effectively detain them as best as we can. As for why the president is going, I think his trip to this detention facility actually underscores the need to pass the One Big Beautiful Bill, because we need more detention facilities.
Hear me out. What if they really want to get rid of a really bad dude, right? And they say he escaped. He escaped and went through the Everglades. Nobody would know, and no one would ever go look for him. Well, they probably would for about 2 weeks, but then they're just going to say, yep, alligators ate him. In reality, we cut him up into little pieces and sent him back to his home country.
Across the country. The last administration let in nearly 20 million illegal people from all over the world, and this administration is focused on arresting and detaining them. But in comparison to that 20 million illegal criminal population in our country, we only have 7,000 ICE agents in the interior who are doing this very important work. And so we obviously need more personnel, we need more resources, and that's why we need to pass the One Big Beautiful Bill.
On the CBO's...
Go ahead. Yes, in the pink.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you please share some details of China trade deal? Has the U.S. agreed to ease some export, technology export restrictions?
Sure. Well, the final language that was agreed upon in both Geneva and in London was signed just past week. We can get you that final text of the agreement. Go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline.
Eamon, and then behind you.
Okay, thanks, Caroline. So on Jay Powell, has the president got a short list of who he wants to see as Jay Powell's successor, and is he going to name a successor?
Bro, when you said Jay Powell, I was totally thinking of that fucking congresswoman. I'm like, what is that, replace? We can do that? But then I realized it's Jerome Powell, and this motherfucker just said his initial. I hope he only said his initial, because if he didn't, this dude's a fucking moron.
As early as this summer.
I won't get ahead of the president on any announcements on that.
Does he like Scott Besson for the job?
Again, I won't get ahead of the president.
And on TikTok, if you could, real quick, he said
Sure.
yesterday he's got a buyer, but the question there is, does he have a seller? And do you have any indication from the Chinese government that they've authorized a sale of TikTok to the U.S. or to U.S. buyers?
What I can tell you is that these discussions with China regarding the sale of TikTok have been ongoing at the highest level, and they will continue. As you know, we have another 90-day extension, and it's just to continue to work out this deal and make sure that TikTok stays on for the American people. That's the president's main goal in this, while protecting their privacy and their security. Behind you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. The president has been calling for a deal in Gaza for 2 days and many posts. Who is blocking the deal? And one other thing, when he posted on Netanyahu's trial, also he said it interferes with the negotiations on Iran and on Gaza. What did he mean by that?
I'm sorry, to your second question?
The second Question. When he posted about the Israeli Prime Minister trial, he
Yes.
said
Oh, here we
it
go.
interferes with the negotiations on Gaza and on Iran. What did he mean by that?
It interferes because it physically and logistically was interfering. The prime minister was slated to go to court last week when he's in the middle of negotiating a peace deal and bringing hostages out of a war-torn region. And so the president was simply, I think, emphasizing his empathy that he has for Bibi Netanyahu and seeing him go what he's going through with his own judicial system in the state of Israel. Clearly, the president knows that very well. He too was a victim of a judicial system that was trying to put him in jail, as you all know. You all covered it, but President Trump prevailed. That's why he's back in the Oval Office, and he believes that Bibi Netanyahu is a great leader for the people of Israel. The president just worked with him closely to end that 12-day war and to obliterate Iran's nuclear facility, to take out that imminent threat, not just to the state of Israel, but also to the United States of America and the rest of the world. And he believes that Prime Minister Netanyahu should be praised for that. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I missed something.
To great leader for the people of Israel. The president just worked with him closely to end that 12-day war and to obliterate Iran's nuclear facility, to take out that imminent threat, not just to the state of Israel, but also to the United States of America and the rest of the world. And he believes that Prime Minister Netanyahu should be praised for that. Go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. On the mega bill and the amendment that would limit Medicaid expansion under the Affordable Care Act, does the president want that amendment to pass?
The president wants this bill to pass. Meredith.
Hey, thanks, Caroline. On trade, we have this looming July 9th deadline coming up. We heard the Treasury Secretary say that he expects to wrap up these trade deals by Labor Day, but when President Trump was asked yesterday about any extensions by July 9th, he said, I think that would be necessary. So is the president ruling out any extensions on trade for any nations, even if they're negotiating in good faith?
Well, you heard from him directly. He said he did not think that it would be necessary. He is going to set the rates for many of these countries if they don't come to the table to negotiate in good faith. And he is meeting with his trade team this week to do that. Mary.
Thanks, Caroline. I just watched a CNN segment on a new app called Ice Block.
Yo. I actually saw the segment before this briefing came on yesterday. Look at Levitt's face when she finds out about what this app does.
And it kind of appeared to be promoting this app where you can tell people where ICE agents are. Given the recent rise,
An app that tells people where ICE agents are?
Yes.
Look at her.
And given the rise, I believe 500% increase in assaults on ICE agents, I wanted to see if you could comment on that and why CNN would be promoting such an app.
Well, it's a very good question. I'll have to go back and watch the clip myself, but surely it sounds like this would be an incitement of further violence against our ICE officers. As you know, as you stated, there's been a 500% increase in violence against ICE agents, law enforcement officers across the country who are just simply trying to do their jobs and remove public safety threats from our communities. And that's something we as Americans, including journalists at CNN who live in many of these cities where illegal aliens are hiding and were let in from the previous administration, should be very grateful for. So we haven't seen the clip. We'll take a look at it, but certainly it's unacceptable that a major network would promote such an app that is encouraging violence against law enforcement officers who are trying to keep our country safe.
Caroline,
Shelby.
I just wanted to get a clarification on the Senator Rick Scott's amendment. It sounds like the president is agnostic about whether it's attached. Is that accurate?
Look, I'm not going to get into the details of the discussions that are ongoing right now, but the president wants these senators to come to a conclusion, to get this bill back to the White House as soon as possible and make sure that it's a piece of legislation that can make its way back through the House as well. So obviously there's some ping-ponging between both sides of Capitol Hill right now, but that's why Senator Thune and Speaker Johnson are working with the president in lockstep every step of the way. In the back, News Nation, go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. The president did
and then
announce.
in front of you, yes.
In front of.
Sure, I'll take both of you.
The president did announce last week that the trade deal with India is closed,
and this could happen anytime soon. Are there any roadblocks as of now? Are there any updates on that? And how does the president see this about China's role or its influence in the Indo-Pacific region?
Sure, yes. The president said that last week, and it remains true. I actually just spoke to our Secretary of Commerce about it. He was in the Oval Office with the president. They are finalizing these agreements, and you'll hear from the president and his team, his trade team, very soon when it comes to India.
And on China? How do we counter China on that front?
Yes, I mean, look, India remains a very strategic ally in the Asia
wonder
Pacific, and the president has a very good relationship with Prime Minister Modi, as you know, and he will continue to have that. Go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. On the reconciliation bill, Senator Tillis from the floor yesterday seemed to suggest President Trump was getting bad counsel on the effects of the bill.
He was.
Is President Trump aware of the analyses, and there are several of these, that suggest if rural hospitals potentially close, if there are Medicaid patients in the millions that become ineligible for that?
Yes, and that claim is just simply untrue. Rural hospitals comprise 7% of all hospital spending on Medicaid, and that illustrates that they have not benefited from the massive increase of waste, fraud, and abuse under the Biden administration. So this bill strengthens Medicaid. It will protect those benefits that hardworking Americans need, and that's why the president wants this bill to pass. The senator was wrong. The president put out a Truth Social post addressing it, and then the senator announced he's no longer running for office anymore. So I think that case has been closed, and the White House is continuing to focus on getting this legislation to the president's desk for his signature. Go ahead. Yes, you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, you and then you. There's confusion here.
A question on Syria.
Go ahead.
Has the Syrian government get back to you that they are ready to join the Abraham Accord? Is there any discussion with the Syrian and Israeli government for having a security agreement? Is the first question. And the second question, what's the end goal for talking with the Iranian? Is that only focused on the nuclear program, or you are willing to speak about other issues like the proxy groups and ballistic missiles, or even trade with Iran?
So as for discussions between Syria and Israel, you'll have to reach out to those respective governments. I can't comment on that. But what I can tell you is that this afternoon, the president will be signing an executive order to terminate the United States sanctions program on Syria. And this is in an effort to promote and support the country's path to stability and peace. The order will remove sanctions on Syria while maintaining sanctions on the former President Assad, his associates, human rights abusers, drug traffickers, persons linked to chemical weapons activities, ISIS and their affiliates, and Iranian proxies. And this is, again, an action that the president promised and shocked the world with in Saudi Arabia, because he's committed to supporting a Syria that is stable, unified, and at peace with itself and its neighbors. The president met with Syria's new president when we were in the Middle East, as you know, and so this is another promise made and promise kept by this president to promote peace and stability in the region. Go ahead, Iris.
Sure. Questions on two topics, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Iris Howe with NTD here. First on Canada. Canada says it's now dropping its digital services tax on American tech companies days after President Trump says he's halting all trade talks with Canada.
What's up, Jennifer?
First, what's the president's reaction to this? Can you tell us more about his call with Prime Minister Carney over the weekend? How did he get Carney to drop it? And also, what's the impact on American tech companies given
Trump basically punked Carney into doing what he wanted. Carney's like, no, it's not going to happen. Trump's like, all right, fuck all this. And then Carney's like, you know what? Let me call. All right. I thought about it for a couple hours, and I realized that this is dumb, and you could definitely get rid of our country. And we don't want you to take Alberta, even though Alberta, they really, really want out of Canada.
this latest progress as the president says he has been fighting for American tech companies?
It's very simple. Prime Minister Carney in Canada caved to President Trump in the United States of America. And President Trump knows how to negotiate, and he knows that he is governing the best country and the best economy in this world, on this planet. And every country on the planet needs to have good trade relationships with the United States. And it was a mistake for Canada to vow to implement that tax that would have hurt our tech companies here in the United States. The president made his position quite clear to the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister called the president last night to let the president know that he would be dropping that tax, which is a big victory for our tech companies and our American workers here at home.
And on Harvard, if you don't mind, the administration today formally accused Harvard of violating civil rights laws by not doing enough to fight anti-Semitism. We know that the president has talked to us before about Harvard potentially having a deal with the administration in the coming days. Do you have an updated timeline for that? How
It's weird that you can be anti-white, you can be anti-black, you can be anti-Hispanic, anti-Asian, but by God damn, I'm sorry, let me continue. You can be anti-Christian, anti-Catholic, anti-Islam, and all that shit. But the second you're an anti-Semitic, you don't like Israel or the Jews, holy fuck, the world is going to end. And it possibly could.
negotiations going, and is more pressure needed for Harvard to take fighting anti-Semitism seriously?
Well, there was quite a direct letter that was sent to Harvard this morning, as you know. The negotiations are taking place behind closed doors, so I won't comment on that. But what I will share with all of you, for those who haven't seen it, is the context of this letter, because I think it's very important. And this comes from the Department of Health and Human Services, which concluded after a thorough investigation that Harvard University is in a violent violation of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, which prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, and national origin. And if you read some of the content of the investigation and what they found, the majority of Jewish students reportedly experienced negative bias or discrimination on their campus, while a quarter of Jewish students at Harvard felt physically unsafe. Jewish and Israeli students were assaulted and spit on. They hid their kippahs for fear of being harassed and concealed their Jewish identity from classmates for fear of ostracization. Images were widely circulated amongst the Harvard community that trafficked in obvious anti-Semitic tropes, including one that showed a dollar sign inside of a Star of David, and the campus was vandalized with anti-Semitic stickers, including one that showed the Israeli flag with a swastika. The Harvard campus was racked by demonstrations, as you all know, violent protests that violated the university's rules of conduct. The demonstrations called for genocide and murder, denied Jewish and Israeli students access to campus spaces. These are all facts that Harvard cannot.
You can be anti-everything. Well, there's two protected classes in the United States. You can't talk bad about the Jews, by God, and you can't talk bad about the LGBTQIA, NAACP, alphabet community type stuff. You want to burn a pride flag? You're going to jail for a hate crime. You want to burn the American flag? Freedom of speech. Shouldn't they both be freedom of speech? Just saying. And can I burn an Israeli flag in the street? Is that okay? 'Cause,
dispute, and that's why the administration has found them in violation of Title VI and has threatened to withhold their federal funding, because if you break federal law, you should not be receiving federal tax dollars. And so I rest my case on Harvard. Andrea.
Yeah, so President Macron of France earlier today said that tariffs levied by powerful countries are often a form of blackmail, and criticized the sort of process that's underway. He didn't mention
Epstein was a form of blackmail. That has nothing to do with tariffs. No.
The United States specifically, but said that these tariffs are really hurting developing countries. So there's this big UN conference going on. What do you say to that? What is the president, was he aware of that comment, and did he have any response?
I think the president and the White House would certainly reject that characterization by Prime Minister Macron. Tariffs are an effective use of presidential power to bring back the middle class, to bring back our manufacturing industry, which was the backbone of our American economy and has been hollowed out by globalist politicians who have caved to foreign countries instead of doing what's right for American workers. That's why the president is effectively utilizing his authority to wage tariffs and to utilize tariffs, and continues to be in discussions and negotiations on trade to do what's right for America. And Europe and the rest of the world might not be used to that, but President Trump is back in town, and he's going to do what's right for our people and our country.
Can I just follow up on Netanyahu. So there's a report in Israeli media that the Prime Minister will actually be here, that Netanyahu will be here today meeting with the President. Can you confirm that?
I don't believe Prime Minister Netanyahu is here today. I think you guys would know about that by now.
Weird.
Unless there's something going on I don't know about, but I don't believe he is. I do know he has expressed interest in coming to Washington and meeting with the President, and we are working on a date for that. I do not believe it is today, but that would be fun. You never know in this White House, let's be honest. Go ahead.
Thanks.
Whoa.
Does the president support this new measure in the big, beautiful bill that would impose steep new taxes on new wind and solar projects?
I believe you're referring to the credits for wind and solar projects.
No,
And
I'm
what?
talking about the new tax. There's a new tax that it's estimated would add 10 to 20% to the cost of any new wind and solar projects that start after this year.
Again, I don't want to comment on the specifics of provisions, but I'm sure the president will speak on that directly. Again, this is an ongoing process. The president continues to be very much engaged with the leadership in both the Senate and the House to get this bill back to his
Did
desk.
the president ask for that provision? Because the National Building Trades Union is saying that it's the equivalent of terminating more than 1,000 Keystone XL pipeline projects. Is that something that would concern him?
Well, the president spoke on this yesterday in his interview, and he said he understands that legislators want to protect jobs in their communities and in their districts. And so he understands why some of them are against this provision, but he also understands why people want the provision. So again, this is an ongoing deliberation and discussion, and the president is engaged in this very much. Go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. We've been hearing from White House officials for weeks that you're close on trade deals with a number of countries. Can we get any update on which countries will have deals by the 9th and when there may be any announcements?
I'll let the president and the trade team speak on it.
But let's right in the middle of the deals.
The CBO estimate that the Senate bill would increase the deficit by nearly $3.3 trillion.
This is one of the most fiscally conservative pieces of legislation that has ever made its way through Capitol Hill. There's $2 trillion in mandatory savings in this bill, and not only that, the projected growth that this bill will bring to our economy. It will be an economic boom. The Council of Economic
So
Advisors.
if it was $2 trillion in savings, then why does it add $1 trillion to the deficit? It's weird.
Has an analysis that shows that the bill will generate $4.1 trillion in economic growth, and it will cut taxes, putting more money back into the American people's pockets. That's why this president wants this bill to pass, and I know he's busy working the phones and doing what he needs to do today to make it happen. So we'll see you all later. Thank you. We'll see you in Florida tomorrow.
And last one. Donald Trump's thing, we're going to have to put it off till tomorrow. I'm kind of sleepy. You know, when they put holes in your ears, it's not fun. Yeah, the acupuncture one. Yeah, it makes me kind of tired. Anyway, this final thing, it's the ice tracking application that I guess the White House didn't know about until, well, Caroline Leavitt was told. So, let's get on to see what Pam Bondi wants to do about this.
On the heels of the huge Supreme Court ruling on Friday, the DOJ now continues to implement President Trump's immigration agenda. Earlier today, the department filed a lawsuit against sanctuary city policies in Los Angeles following the recent lawlessness and the riots that have plagued that city. And last week, the DOJ filed a complaint against Minnesota, challenging laws providing in-state tuition benefits to illegal immigrants. Still, Democrats are going way out of their way to resist everything that President Trump does. One software developer has now created an app to warn people when ICE agents are nearby. And this morning, fake news CNN appeared to promote the app. How nice of them. Take a look.
I talked with Joshua Aaron, who is the longtime tech worker who developed this platform. And
Bro, not saying anything, but I'm going to. The guy that developed this app, can you guess? Can you guess what protected class he's a member of?
He said he really wants it to be an early warning system for people about the location of Immigrations and Customs Enforcement officers. So he says he does not want people interfering with those officers' activity, but he does want people to be able to avoid them altogether. You open the app, it looks like a map, and users can tap the map to report an ICE sighting in their area, and then everybody who uses the platform within 5 miles of that sighting will get a push alert. This is a free iPhone app. It is anonymous. Aaron says he doesn't collect any user data.
And meanwhile, President Trump is set to visit the grand opening of what is now being dubbed Alligator Alcatraz. That is a detention center in the Everglades for illegal immigrants. And the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, is with us with more. Madam Attorney General, great to have you, as always. Let's start with these lawsuits, the one against Los Angeles and last week in Minnesota.
Yeah, it was Sean, where, you know, in Los Angeles, what LA was doing, and we also sued Karen Bass, the mayor, directly. What they were doing is they were prioritizing illegal aliens over American citizens, and you cannot do that. These sanctuary policies are the root of the cause of violent crime in our country, in LA. We saw it with the riots. We had to send out DEA, FBI, ATF, our U.S. Marshals, jeopardize their safety to help enforce the laws of Los Angeles. We are not going to protect illegal aliens over Americans. No longer. It's stopped. We have sued New York, Illinois, Colorado, New Jersey, and now we've sued Los Angeles, and we will continue to sue you if you do not follow the laws of our country.
Like, not,
Donnie, I noticed.
We know why you're suing them, but what happens when you win? What do you get out of it? I've never understood that.
That pledge about not helping or following the law. We do have the supremacy clause in the Constitution. They do have jurisdiction, is my understanding. But isn't that the same for every sanctuary city or state?
Yeah, and what Dabi is saying in New York is utterly ridiculous. It's making mainstream anti-Semitism, Sean. This guy is out of control. What he's been doing, what he's been saying, he wanted to defund, do away with NYPD. It's so frightening, and the things about anti-Semitism should scare us all, given what happened with the Holocaust Museum, given what happened in Boulder, Colorado, and we just lost that victim, as you know, the 82-year-old victim who was firebombed, given what happened in the UK with that concert, saying all these anti-Semitic things. Someone like that is very dangerous, not only for New York, but for our entire country. So we're going to keep fighting for the citizens of these cities. If these mayors and these candidates for mayors won't do it, Donald Trump will, including Tim Walz, Governor Tim Walz in Minnesota.
Let's talk about...
That sounds awfully big government-ish. I mean, it's enforcing federal law, but sounds like big government-ish.
I mean, the administration racked up a series of very powerful decisions last week, including the nationwide injunction. Let's go through the importance of those decisions and how it impacts the administration.
Well, it impacts everything President Trump has done, his agenda, everything he's trying to enact under his powers of the executive branch. It blocked our tariffs. It affected our military readiness. It affected immigration. It affected...
Hear me out. What we need to do is we need to allow these big cities to do whatever the fuck they want. However, we're going to put a big wall around them, and you have to have citizenship to come through this wall to go to the rest of the country. It's going to cost a whole lot of money. You're going to get a whole lot of people having jobs. And then those cities will end up be turned into prisons. Hypothetically. Escape from New York. Nothing like that. I Am Legend. You know, where they build a wall around a big city and then nobody's allowed in or out. Not that it's ever happened in a TV show or a movie. Not saying that it will happen. I'm just saying sometimes Hollywood is right.
affected our foreign affairs. It affected us eliminating fraud throughout the government. No longer. They were allowing district court judges to serve as emperors, basically, for the entire country.
I hope they were
We've had
wearing clothes.
285 lawsuits against us. Of the 40 injunctions that have been issued against President Trump's administration, 35 of them were in 5 districts: Maryland, D.C., Massachusetts, Colorado, and Washington State. Not shocking to you, I'm sure, Sean, but no longer. It violated the separation of powers on which our nation's government was founded, and they cannot seize power from the executive branch any longer. President Trump now can enact his agenda. It was a huge win. We've had so many big wins recently for President Trump because the American people elected him by an overwhelming majority and the Electoral College. And that's so important because his message when he ran was crystal clear. And that's what he's able to enact now based on this great ruling with a 6-3 opinion authored by Justice Barrett at the Supreme Court. We also won transgender books, that parents have the right to choose whether their children have to read transgender books. I've seen some of these things. They are disgusting. No one would want to read these, especially a child in school. And now
it's crazy because they're not banning the books completely like the Nazis. They're just banning them in schools. You want to buy it for your kid? More power to you.
Court confirmed that parents do have rights. That also came out last Friday. And as I mentioned before, we also sued last week Governor Walz in Minnesota for tuition for illegal aliens. You can't do that. Once again, these governors, these states are prioritizing illegal aliens over our students. They're treating our students like second-class citizens, and the Trump administration is not going to put up with it. It ends, and it ends now.
You know,
dude, imagine getting all these benefits, right, from your state, and well, you're not getting them. You're paying for them when you are, a struggling college kid as well. I mean, you're not paying taxes unless you work a full-time job just to get yourself through school. But then some people just, hola! Oh wait, actually it's Minnesota, so it's probably Arabic. They're getting put through school. I mean, granted, my kids are getting put through school, but they still have to pay. It's not 100% free. It's just a good little dent. And then you have kids who literally have to pay for school themselves, and they have to break it up. Take a semester on, semester off, because classes are too fucking expensive. And a 4-year school takes about 8 years. But it doesn't matter because they're not a doctor. Write that down. Anyway. Yeah, she's from Florida, Yeti. Hope y'all enjoyed. Like I said, this is supposed to be a little bit longer, but, yeah. I think I should save the other one till next time so I can actually review it. Or not. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of 18 and above. This actually could have been not 18 and above, but I did say shit about Jews. And apparently people want to censor the word Jews, call them the J words. The jizz. Just like black people, you can't call them nug-nugs. I mean niggers. I mean Negroes. Anyway, this show is completely not racist. That's why I go after everybody, to include the gooks. And, yeah, you white people aren't safe. You guys know that already. Fucking colonizing bitches. Anyway, I'm not telling y'all how to think. I'm just telling you to think. And this is our government. Lies, broken promises, hidden agendas, and like FinFam said, and nothing, no one will ever be held accountable for fucking children. As long as the guy that was financing all of it is a Jew. Or something like that. Oh, and have a nice day.